In today's video, we're going to be breaking down the Boston Celtics and why they upset the Brooklyn Nets. Well, kind of upset. Boston already had a better record. Let's get down, let's check this out. One thing that you will see about Boston is that they do tend to pack the paint in transition. They also tend to double whenever there's players who are trying to cut down the key. They would rather allow a shot from the perimeter than a player who's driving down the middle. And even though Brooklyn has very good shooters like Seth Curry and Kevin Durant, Boston doesn't care. They would rather double and pack the paint than allow open layups to happen. Because see what happens with offenses these days is once that ball gets into the block or once that ball gets into the paint, notice that there's a player who's dropping down to be able to double team that low post. The issue by allowing players to get into the key with the ball is now you are allowing them to see the open court so they can make those passes out of the paint and hit open threes. So you want to disallow players from getting down there. And this is actually a pretty good strategy, even though here they did allow Kevin Durant to score. While on offense, the Celtics used simple offenses to be able to create open shots. So we had almost like a blind pig style play from the side over here. This could have been a pass into Tatum if they didn't switch. And then coming off of that, both of these players stayed on that lob pass opportunity, and that allowed the player at the point to set that pin down screen for the initial screener on the blind pig, so that now we have that open three for Marcus Smart up top. Very simple style play that you can run. And also in transition, they also try to make a wall at the top at the point so that it's unable to allow you or the other team, in this case Brooklyn, to attack down the middle of the paint. This then forces players towards the sidelines and towards the sides of the courts where there's lesser passing opportunities. Now, while this did work initially to cut off passing lanes, it did allow Kyrie Irving to set up a floater. And early offense in transition, they looked to attack the basket early. The reason why this is a good idea is because now you can get some easy, quick points before the other team's center gets back on defense. But also by attacking the paint early, that can collapse defenses. In this case, we have 3 players on defense packing the paint, where now on some youth teams, you may even get up to 4 or even 5 players where then you can kick that pass out for an open 3. And they don't rely on any crazy schemes. It's just simple screen plays, attack the basket, draw the help, draw the hedge, and then can you either score on that hedge or can you kick it out? In this case, he could have kicked it out. There was a few different options that he had. However, because there was players who were not necessarily guarding him individually, like I'm not going to call this a very strong defensive position as it is, but he was able to get that shot. Simple horns plays also allowed them to win the game. So here, they're setting up a horns offense. They're running it a bit higher than you normally would, but that then frees up the baseline for some baseline cuts. So, what do we have? Well, we have a defensive player here who's playing a bit high. This opens up a lane for this player to cut. Well, if we get that ball to this side, we can then set that pass down. You have to be able to read your defense and read your positioning. What this play was initially called for was going to be a back screen after that pass to this player so that Jason Tatum can cut to the rim. However, Kyrie Irving seen that potentially and tried to potentially cut that off so that now that option would not be there. However, that just allowed his own defender, his own player, to be able to get open along the baseline, and that's why this worked out so well. You're going to see more and more of this these days, and that is getting more and more players who are around that small forward size of 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", in that range, and having more players on your team on the floor being that size, because then you can get into a mismatch opportunity as we see here down court with, of course, your mismatch. You can get them up into the air, and you can then finish at the rim. That's why I'm starting with 2 centers this year with my AAU team and 2 forwards and 1 point guard. And then when you run, you can run a 2-1-2 offense like the Celtics here, or you can also call this a high 1-4 technically speaking. But simple screens where you get that center to come up very high. Spacing is going to be key, at least in a lot of offenses from now on. However, spacing, getting players to be up super high so that now you can draw out those at a much higher clip, so that now when you get that hedge man, you're going to then have that hedge man drop back, and that will allow good players like Jason Tatum to be able to drain wide open threes, because of course Jason Tatum is a three-point shooter. He's a very good three-point shooter, and if you can draw a center to set those screens up and you get that switch, that center is going to be much slower. Your guy could drive right by him and dunk, or he can jack up a three, as we see right here. So the strategy that the Boston Celtics are currently using worked extremely well against the Brooklyn Nets. Will it work as good against a team that has more mobile bigs? And what I'm talking about is somebody who is not a Blake Griffin and not somebody like a DeAndre Jordan type player, who is bigger, athletic, but not as fast anymore because they're older. So will this be able to work against teams like the Raptors? Will this work against teams like Miami? It's going to be hard to see. However, it looks very interesting to see what the Celtics are currently doing. I hope that this video has helped you as a coach and player. If it has, hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys again next time.